the chairman and panelists and noble colleagues and members of this professional group. I'm delighted to be here. I'm sorry, I'm actually representing the president at Redan AGM, and had to come out to attend to this because this is very important. And I've also listened to the chairman's justification for this seminar, and I think is spoken well. I just want to let you know that what you are doing is absolutely important for our profession. We need to ensure that we do whatever we do with integrity and the highest level of professionalism. The market expects us to be very active, and then our opinions are absolutely key in shaping the market. So we need to get our methodologies, our methods, our assumptions, our bases, our techniques. We need to get all of them spot on so that we would direct the market in the right way. So I want to, on behalf of the president, Estate Surveyor John Bulamayabo, congratulate you on this very, very important seminar. And I'm sure that with the caliber of people you already lined up, we will come out of it with some very valuable positions and ideas that will guide our colleagues who are involved in this valuation for auction purposes. I also want to let you know that as at the last council meeting, what is it called now? I think we had what is it called? What we had in airport hotel. What is it called now? Where all the professional groups met, and for 2 days, a retreat. Sorry, I was looking for the word retreat. All our resolutions that were presented to council have been approved. So we, like I told some of your chairmen of the professional group, we will be meeting very shortly to really begin the implementation so that the various professional groups will be strengthened. The good work that especially Auctioneering professional group is doing will even be much more entrenched and strengthened, and then you'll be able to make more impact. Because if you make impact, it is the profession that is making impact and the institution that is making impact. So on this note, I want to congratulate you and thank your chairman and the EXCO for this initiative. And we look forward to seeing the resolution and then the outcome. And wherever the institution can actually come in to help in terms of implementation and further guidance, we will be willing to do that. So thank you very much. I wish you all the very best, and I would also be part of the program because I also want to learn. Thank you very much, Tokwe and his team. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for the pep talk. I don't expect anything less than that from the first vice. He's my big icon. He's been very supportive about this program. He has asked me a lot of questions. Talk about this. I really respect his contribution. And I'll still look forward to some contribution because there are some questions we'd like to ask you along the line on this issue. Thank you very much, sir. Now we have a list of panelists that are here. Let me start with ESB Mparobi. Mparobi is going to be the lead speaker. Mparobi is an exit surveyor and valuer trained in University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and he's been in practice for over almost 40 years. And he's been in he was in the public sector at Nigerian Printing and Meeting Corporation of Nigeria, if I'm right. and he's been in active private practice. You could see his erudite contribution on platforms when it comes to issue of valuation. He's going to be our first lead speaker. Then we have panelists that will be contributing to it. We have Professor Babawale. He's an authority in valuation, and he just delivered his inaugural lecture at Unilag. And you could see the tweak on platform after his inaugural lecture, questions flying here and there. He is an alumnus of Great Ife. We had his first
recording in progress.
Bob. Sorry for the technical hitch. So Professor Babalade graduated from Ife. He studied estimation before proceeding to Readings, and his PhD, his doctorate in Unilag. It's among the few authorities that we have in valuation in academic circle. He'll be part of us this afternoon, and we look forward to his deliberation. Also, I have another panelist in the person of Mr. Wumi Odushola. He's a man of dual degrees. He studied economics first degree, Unilag. He saw the way valuers were making money in valuation and agency and letting. He decided to decamp from pure economics to come and study estimation again. So he's a man of many parts. He's been an active participant in the auction world. Likewise, the valuer. He's going to be part of the team. And lastly, I have my big friend and a brother, Shola Beji, who's going to be the MC with me. Shola has a vast experience both across valuation and auctioneering. Shola has been in the board and currently a member of the council of Niesv. So you can tweak him, you can ask him questions on valuation, auctioneering, real-time, online, practice, academics, so you'll be part of it. So ladies and gentlemen, without wasting my time, Bob, can you please try to bring online Bob, can you please bring online Mapu Obi to join us? Sir. And let him share his view. Oga Obi, where are you?
I'm very much here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So you would like to have the floor. You have your hand like the floor. It's going to be very interactive and very educating. And I don't want anybody to be rigid about their position. I want us to learn. We want to learn. We want to throw more light about what we're doing. So you can have the floor.
It's a great honor and pleasure to be here today. I believe we are all here because of our special love for the profession. And then in the times we're living in the times of the evolving situations, that we need to get things right. And in the bid to get the things right, that is why I'm coming up with this position that I'm trying to present on this issue of valuing foreclosed and forfeited assets. When you gave me the topic, it was open-ended. It spoke in terms of valuing forfeited and foreclosed assets. But I just had to narrow it down because at the end of the day, valuation is a very wide and broad concept and very disciplined. And in order for us to really do justice to what we want to do today, I just had to narrow it down within the context of a market, which I refer to F&F assets market. F&F stands for foreclosure and forfeited asset markets. So in the same vein, I want to acknowledge the able first vice president and the president for the good job they are doing for the institution. I believe they are committed to seeing us to higher ground. And if every one of us can do their own bits, I guess we'll get it all right. So let's proceed as I share my screen. So I've entitled what I want to discuss today, issues in the valuation of assets within foreclosed and forfeited assets market in Nigeria, the auctioneer's end game. Today is the day for auctioneers, and my position can be summarized as examination of the nature and character of foreclosed assets, and this character and nature consign them to a special asset market. Then secondly, we'll be talking about looking into the fundamentals of a market and the pivotal role played by market participants in fixing prices. And thirdly, we'll be looking at the essential role valuers play within the marketplace as arbiters and providers of impartial opinions of value for benchmarking prices. We'll probably look at the applicable valuation standards for valuing forfeited and fixed assets. And then we look at the approaches and methodologies for valuing these assets and how to arrive at a final value opinion. Then we'll probably look at the linkages between value opinion and reserve prices. And then if time permits, we'll certainly share some practical examples. By way of introduction, over the years, there have been this recurrent issue about non-realization of reserve prices for foreclosed and forfeited assets on offer by banks, financial institutions, and government agencies through public auction. And that alone informed the need for this topic we want to examine today. And it's equally coming against the backdrop that oftentimes the reserve prices of these assets are pegged using value opinions provided by valuers. And there's no gainsaying that lately valuers have been on the spotlight and receiving end, because the impression being created in the market is that they're not thorough in what we do. How can we justify non-realization of reserve prices, especially those recently valued before auctioning? And if we are to tell ourselves the truth, the indictment is real. A lot of our colleagues don't, I'm sorry to say so, don't do a thorough job. I guess it all boils down to the issue of the reason why we're here today, to help us do what is right in order to at least rebrand ourselves and reestablish ourselves as arbiters and people who provide reliable opinions within the market space. The objective, as I said, is please have to indulge us because I have to run through, I have to be very fast because I have limited time to present this paper. Objective is simply to identify key issues that influence sound and realistic valuation of fixed of forfeited assets and foreclosed assets, highlighting the framework for valuation of these assets against the backdrop of established valuation standards by International Valuation Commission. Then recommending approaches and methodologies for valuation of assets and delivering accurate valuations. Then examine the best approach to arriving at value conclusion, then highlighting the linkages between value opinion and the reserve prices for purposes of auctioning of these assets. I believe strongly that if we can understand how to analyze and apply these issues we're going to discuss here today, we'll be in a better position to deliver value opinions that will help in realization of objective of selling foreclosed assets and forfeited assets through auction. And most times, those who seek to sell these assets or who give us instructions to value these assets have some guidelines which they have to abide by. Outside the legal requirements, outside the institutional framework, there are a lot of guidance, especially for the banks. The CBN has its own guidelines. The Nigerian Collateral Asset Register has its own guidelines. And the sum total of these guidelines are what are presented here as standard best practices that regulates forfeited assets and foreclosed assets. And as valuers, we should be able to understand where these people are coming from, the expectations from us. One of the key things is that they want to maximize recovery and realization in terms of value from these assets. And then again, they equally want to walk through a transparent process, especially when it comes to sell and dispose of.
Sorry, we are trying to get him back. I think it could be, it has to do with network. Ogawi, can you please help us to get back to him? Ogawi, can you help us to bring him back? Talk to.
Okay, I will reach him. I'll reach him.
Meanwhile, while waiting for him to come back more stream, but let's try to give us a DFI, the DFI institution in Nigeria, they are giving asset valuation out for assets, banks in liquidation. And I guess a lot of us are working on it now. And that's one of the premise of having this discussion. While waiting for him, is he back? Can I bring him?
Yeah,
We are back.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for the connection problem.
Don't worry.
Connection
we rebuke it in Jesus' name. Now let's get flow. Let's get into the flow. Okay.
So basically, I stopped at the point where the expectations of the underlying expectations of those who seek our services in terms of how to realize the assets they want to auction. And most time transparency is the issue, and they are required to deliver within certain premise. I hope you're hearing me. So I'm sorry for the connection issues. It's just network issue. But notwithstanding, we need to look at forfeited assets and foreclosed assets description. Basically, foreclosed assets are assets that come under the custody of secured creditors by way of a foreclosure order of a court or a foreclosure agreement. And so it comes by way of failure on the part of an obligor to meet its responsibilities or obligations. And most often the obligee, that's the secured creditor, it forecloses out these assets with the intention to sell to realize their outstanding obligations. And for forfeited assets, these are assets that government sees by way of as a result of by way of other fraudulent practices or criminal offenses. And the asset tracing and recovery guidelines of regulation of 2019 lays down the approaches to which these things are classified and how they come about. The interesting thing is that most times these assets are ultimately put up for sale. And before they are sold, they are required to be valued. And another thing, the reason why we bring them together is because they share certain similarities. These assets are taken from people by orders of court or legal instruments. And the core business of those who sell these assets, who want to sell these assets, is not asset trading, it's not asset, they don't operate within the asset market. Just by virtue of their legal position, they have to put up these assets for sale. And they are not the regular operators within the market. And then there's some measure. What we want to realize about foreclosed assets and fixed and forfeited assets is that, especially within the Nigerian context, there's some measure of stigmatization of these assets. What this means is that once an asset is classified as foreclosed or forfeited, the Nigerian environment, even worldwide, they look at it with a special, from another lens entirely. And that comes by way of stigma. And then another issue that is replete about these assets is that because of the circumstances that are involved in their takeover by the people who seek to sell, most often they are held for a very long time. And holding these assets for a very long time leads to non-use dilapidations or non-use depreciations, which go a long way to affect the quality and the value of these assets. And then again, the sale of these assets requires some fiduciary care and responsibility on the part of those who want to sell. And in the light of this, it's important we go through, have an understanding of CBN Collateral Registries Guideline of 2014, CAC Insolvency Regulation Exposure Draft 2022, and then Asset Tracing and Management Regulations of 2029, and the Public Procurement Act. This lays down the framework in which these assets are classified and defined. But the key takeaways you have to get from this is that these assets require valuation. And then these assets are valued within a market framework. And when we put these two together, what we have is that the type of valuation that precedes the sale or disposal of foreclosed and forfeited assets is a market-based valuation. That is, it is a valuation that is done within the context of a market. So that takes us another leg of this discourse to really appreciate what a market is. Simply put, a market is a platform, a place where persons gather to exchange goods and services. It could be a physical location, it could be formal, informal, it could be regional or jurisdictional or cross-jurisdictional. But one key thing that defines a market is that it provides an arena where commodities and goods are traded. And then again, it is a market that determines the price of any goods or service that's sold within that market. And it takes only 2 or 3 parties for a market to be established. We should note that a market is usually established when you have 2 or 3 parties. If you have 2 or 3 parties, you have them who are willing to deal, who are willing to exchange, you have a market. But if you want competition within the market framework, the number has to be more than 2. It has to inch towards 3. It's when you have 3 participants that you can now say you have a competitive market. But the more the merrier. If you're looking for a perfect market scenario, the larger number of people that trade within a market or operate within a market gives the market that idea of being a perfect or near perfect market scenario. And then one thing we must always have in our mind as valuers is that the IVS definition of market value envisions a perfect or near perfect market scenario. If you go through the IVS provisions, it envisions a perfect or near perfect market scenario. But is that always the case? That is never the case. And that is the challenge we have to face as valuers, to be able to structure our valuations in the context of the market in which the asset is being sold or is designed to be sold. And that exactly takes us to the issue of the assumptions that we have when IVS defined a market, or in terms or what exactly is important for a market. A market, within a market, you have the type, you must know the type of goods that are sold there, the location, the site, the type of participants. And then again, the key things we must always have in mind that market fixes prices. There are different types of markets, and markets are made up of people, and the participants are either on the supply or demand side, except when you're talking about valuers who are like the arbiters who should not interfere in the marketplace, but provide valuations that would help guide the market. So we must equally understand that the framework for valuing these assets is within assets market. And the idea is very simple. there's no gainsaying that valuations are essential within different asset markets. Why is valuation essential? The reason is that value from valuers are used to benchmark pricing. The reason again is because every participant, especially on the seller side or even buyer side, have different perception of the value or worth of the assets. So there's this kind of cacophony and discordant tones within the market space in terms of the worth of an asset. And that is why a valuer's position or opinion is essential for benchmarking whatever prices that will be agreed between market participants. So it's important for us to know as valuers what that our position is to provide an impartial opinion that reflect market realities and the choices of market participants. That must always underline our approach to every valuation. We are impartial observers in the market. Our opinion must be impartial and it must reflect the realities and the choices within the market space. If not, we'll end up messing up the evaluation. So, and again, in trying to bring the things we are doing together, most times when valuers are instructed to conduct valuations, different clients come up with different instructions as to the type of value they want from valuers. We see in the market value, fair market value, open market value, for sale value. We hear this a lot in the market, but unfortunately for most of us, each time instructions are given, people just run along with instructions without sitting down with the client to clarify and let them know the value that to actually serve a purpose they are looking for. Just like in a recent instructions given by NDIC lately, they were talking about open market value. We all know as valuers that open market value is no longer as far as reporting market value in the real sense of market value. We don't talk about open market value because in the real sense, the market is not open as envisioned by hitherto. The market is not homogeneous. The market is heavily segmented. The market, every asset had its own market. So there's no general market where every asset is traded, which open market implies. And that is why market, it's important for us when you receive an instruction as a valuer, you must sit down with your client and then narrow their mind to that value description that will meet their expectation. IVS talks about market value, and most times clients want market value, but we must equally, in reporting market value to them, let them realize that the market is not monolithic. That is where the mistakes come from most of the time. The market is not monolithic. IVS position is general. It now behoves us as valuers to be able to narrow down to the type of market value that we're looking for. And in what we're looking at, we're talking about foreclosed assets and forfeited assets. These have their own specific and specialized market environment under which they are valued. Yes, you are asked to report market value, but you're not going to the normal asset market. You're not going to report in the context of the used market asset. You're not going to report in the context of the OEMs or the asset vendors, or even in the context of, say, a regional or a housing market or a property sub-market. No, the foreclosed assets market and the forfeited assets market is a unique market in themselves. So when you are asked to report market value for these items, you must narrow your market value to that understanding and listen, this market is unique. So it's important for us to have this at the back of our mind. Then valuation standards, because most times we will report market-based valuations. We're doing market-based valuation. It's important that as valuers, we should read and understand IVS standards. The Green Book in particular, IVS 104, speaks about the basis of market-based valuations. It's important that we need to do that, because if we don't have a detailed understanding of it, it's difficult for us to really value in the context and the way that is expected of us. One important thing we need to know is that there are assumptions that are implied in the definition of market value that we have in IVS. And that assumption speaks in terms of a market-based valuation that assumes a transaction. It equally assumes a transaction date. It assumes parties to transaction. The important thing about this is that, listen, there must be a date. As it relates to auction, you can't value a property like an asset like 2 years ago and want to auction it this year. The dynamics have changed. If a client is trying to auction, wants to auction his or her goods, it's important that the timing of valuation must be very close to the time proposed for the auction. For me, if you want to auction anything, you should at least commission a valuation a month before that time, or maximally, depending on type of asset, not more than 3 months before that time. It's important for us to know that as valuers. And as auctioneers, if you're asked to come and sell any asset, and they ask for a valuation report, if its valuation is outdated, please call for another valuation, because it's important for us to bear those in mind. Without a revaluation, you can have a good understanding of the current market scenario. And you must equally understand that it is a market opinion, the market price, the market value opinion that is used to benchmark reserve prices. Imagine valuations done like 3 years ago to be used for auction for today. I don't think it makes sense. It does not make sense. So you need to value as recently as possible in order for this to, because market value assumes a transaction date, and assumes parties to the transaction. Another key assumptions with respect to market valuation is that the transaction could either be hypothetical, actual transaction, it could be an entry point transaction, it could be an exit point, it could be, there are numerous aspects of market value which we must factor into our valuation, which we must narrow into what we want to do. But unfortunately, most of us don't do that. We simply run along with instruction. We just go to the market, go to use market, go to do a market survey, come up with values, and then we'll do and then start the job. We need to narrow it. Are we dealing within an actual market? Yes, for closed and forfeited assets, it's an actual market, and we must understand what this market is all about. And then, I guess equally it's important to equally know that every market has its own participants. We must know who are the participants within that market. And valuation standards talks in terms of hypothetical participants, known and specific parties. And it's important we identify the group, we understand the potential parties, the motivation of those parties, and the duress. What prevents them, the things that will present them, or things that will, these are the things that form their pricing framework. And then the assumed knowledge. You must understand the knowledge level of those within the market in which you want to value or report value. If you don't understand, if you don't think like them, you don't know how they think, you cannot effectively value or report a value that can lead to closures in auctions. So it's important that we understand how the people who are the key participants really reason. And then there are some key takeaways we must understand for market values that relate to forfeited assets and foreclosed assets. We must understand one thing, that this market is, that asset market is not monolithic. It's not just a single market. It is heavily segmented. So you must be able to situate the particular asset market you're valuing. It's important. I'm repeating that because it's a very key fact that we need to put into consideration. And then again, in valuation, you must always deploy information that is readily available within the market space. You don't cook up information. It is the information within the market space that you can use to determine market prices within the context of a market. If you don't have information within the market space, you cannot effectively value. All you just be doing is to conjure figures, which at the end of the day will not serve any purpose. Then the valuation equally must be done in the context of known and knowledgeable market participants. When you are asked to value assets for auction, you sit down to look at who are the likely buyers within this market? Who are the likely market participants within this market? If you don't do that analysis, there's no way you can report any meaningful value that can start the test of time. It's not a question of going to, say, Aswani or any market and pick up values of use items and say, listen, this is the likely value of say a 20-inch television or a chair or you look at properties that were sold in Victoria Land recently and say this is likely value of this asset in Victoria Land for sale. No, it doesn't work that way. You must understand that within this market context, who are the people who actually operate within this market? It's important because invariably what we're trying to do through valuation is to model the choices. We are trying to model the choices of the key market participants. If you don't know who they are, you cannot determine their choices. If you don't know how they make their choices, you cannot really think like the way they do. So it's important that even as far as auction is concerned, to be able to know exactly how do these market participants think? What are their motivations? What are their durations? What are the things that determine their pricing framework? So I want to produce to say the key features of the foreclosed assets market in Nigeria. It's asset, the market is illiquid. Let's note that word. That asset, that market is illiquid. The foreclosed assets and foreclosed asset market is illiquid. What it means that being illiquid, there are very few active participants within the market. A lot of people shy away from that market. A lot of people, end users shy away from that market. What we find most often is that the market is populated and dominated by resellers within the market. For the foreclosed asset and fixed asset market, it is dominated by resellers. When you understand that this market is dominated by resellers, it's going to change your modeling framework. Another thing you must bear in mind again is that these assets are seen as if they are seen as stained or tinted. Foreclosure and forfeiture comes with a kind of stain. It comes with a stigma. So most people want to shy away from because of some of the legal issues involved, some of the issues that are involved as far as these assets are concerned. And that is why if you've operated in the market for a long time, you realize that by way of example, rarely do you find high network individuals, high network organizations. They don't operate in this market. They don't come into this market. High network individuals most times don't come into this market. Most times to look at absorb for someone like a Dangote going to buy a fellow big man's asset that was foreclosed. They shy away from it. So the market is reduced to a certain category of people who most times are resellers, not end users. So if you know that there are stigmas attached to this market, then their pricing framework, it's important to know that these stigmas inform their pricing framework. But unfortunately, most valuers don't understand this reality. They simply move ahead to value as if these assets are within the general asset market, which is wrong. We must be able to narrow our mind and begin to think in the light of the character and the characteristics of the foreclosed assets market. Then we're looking at valuation methods.
Please try to round up.
Okay, the valuation, let me just quickly talk about valuation methods.
Please,
the valuation methods will, the normal valuation approach, especially for charters of relying on the used asset market comparables, holds grounds for valuing charters, but it needs further adjustment. It's not just picking up prices from the used market and then benchmarking. No, you must understand that resellers who dominate this market are conscious of the cost of removal. They are conscious of the cost of storage. They are conscious of cost of finance. They are conscious of cost of perfecting their titles. They are conscious of the margins of resale. So since they dominate this market, when you get prices from the used market, you must still do further adjustments in order to come to the level of their thinking. So the used asset market adjustments must be made because of the negative perception, because of the fact that these assets have their own peculiarities. Then these are some of the things that determine the adjustments we're going to make if we are going to use used market comparison. Then when it comes to specialized assets that don't have information, where you have to use cost. Yes, there are some specialized assets that come into the market that you have to use cost. But the issue is it's not all about just straight line depreciation. It goes beyond straight line depreciation and obsolescence. You must understand that depreciation is loss of value from all known sources. And one of the known sources is that the assets are priced lower by this market participant because of the stigmatized nature. And what you have to do, possibly have to devise a multi-layer depreciation if you have to use cost. Take away the wear and tear, take away the obsolescence, and then now factor in those cost elements that resellers, who are the major participants in this market, usually take off in their discount.
Thank you.
And then again,
thank you. We still
I guess
because
no
because of time constraint. I'm
okay,
sorry.
I guess that.
Please.
Okay.
We're still going to get back to. I know, Prof. Your valuation opinion. I think Professor Bawali may discuss on that. But thank you very much. I think we need to jam our hands together for Obi what he's done. He's done a great job talking about value, markets, computerization, and compartmentalization. And at the same time, he has discussed something fundamental, the question of definition of value. There's still big debates, open market value, fair market value, liquidation value, fossil value in the context of definition and rule of IBSE. But let me go to Professor Bawali. Can I have Prof, please, online? Can I get Prof? Prof. Professor Bawali.
All right.
Oh, Prof, you are there. Now,
yes, I'm here.
Before you come with your reaction, I want to give you a teaser. For every area boy, there's area father. So for every valuer that is doing something that is wrong, is either he was taught wrong or he did not listen to his lecturer in school. So now from what OB has said, all of us pass through schools. Is it we're taught theoretically, divorcing us from reality of what is going on in practice? Or from in the light of what actually OB said, what are the theoretical framework? I saw the way they were batching you on platform about your inaugural lecture, and you are an authority in valuation. And I'll say something very simple. EFCC auction is a classical case of our training, that our reports did not match with the market. Majority of those reports, something is wrong. Sir, react to the lecture of OB, and as a father in the profession and in training, you have cross training, UK, Nigeria, and you are churning out graduates every day from Unilag. This profession in terms of valuation practice is an endangered species. It's an endangered aspect of our profession that we are not doing well. Please, sir, let me have your reaction to the lecture and some things that we discussed. Our methodology needs to be reappraised for valuation. Thanks, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me thank the auctioneer professional group for bringing me into this particular discussion. I think it's been very, very interesting. I want to thank Mr. Papu for what he has been able to say within the very limited time. Yes, first of all, he reminded us that as valuers, we are essentially in interpreting the markets. We need to understand our clients, we need to understand the market, we need to understand our understanding of this major participant and their interaction within the market that has strength as well as in our opinion. And I think it's very, very fundamental, when it comes to valuation. Well, if I was going to say one or two things, but let me just quickly say that before I answer your question. Now, because essentially when it comes to auction valuation, what we are really saying is that what exactly should be the price of that is placed for auction in the market, price as determined by valuer. law. Because ultimately, whatever happens, end up at the law courts. I've always told people that each time they do evaluation, they must have in mind that invariably it might be a subject of contention in the courts. Now, what's the position of the law? The law says in exercising the power of sale, the law only requires the mortgagee to act in good faith. The mortgagee is required by law to obtain a proper price, not the best price. And I'm quoting a Supreme Court judgment. Once he has acted in good faith, his exercise of sale cannot be impeded on ground that is undervalue per se is not enough to vitiate a mortgagee's power of sale unless it can be shown that the value was compromised or fraudulent. In a particular case, and I'm citing Okonko and Cooperative and Commerce Bank of Nigeria PLC, I quote the appellant court. If a mortgagee exercises his power of sale bona fide for the purpose of realizing the debt and without pollution with the purchaser, the court will not interfere, even though the sale is disadvantageous unless the price is so low as to itself be evidence of fraud. In Ekate and Nigeria Development Society Limited, the finding of the lower court that the sale of the mortgage property by the second defendant was at an undervalue was held by the Supreme Court not to be sufficient reason to set aside the sale in the absence of bad faith or collusion on the part of the defendant. Now, I want to start with this case study or case law to help us to understand the position of the courts and to let us know that the court also know, just like Mr. Paku said, that a property that is foreclosed or that is forfeited is already stigmatized. And anybody come to buy them come primarily because they are likely to sell below market price. Now, let me leave that one on one side. Let me now go back what is called market price. Now, the idea of market price have been, I won't say it's abused, it's an everyday word. And the way it is used by common people outside there is quite different from the way we know it. A market price, as we are concerned, is well defined within some established assumptions and conditions. Now, first of all, let me explain the theory behind market price, because unless you understand market price itself, we might not know its limitation or what it represents or what it stands for. Assuming that in Abule Oja here, we are determining the market price of a 5-bedroom detached house, and we go to the market, we collect evidences, we get about 6 evidences of recent sale. One is maybe 25 million, another 26, the other one 27, the other one 28, the other one 29 and 30, just to make it simple like that. Now we need just one value out of this range of value to represent the market value for that category of property. which of these value is the best price to represent all of them. Well, statistically, we will say that, well, we look at what is called the measure of central tendency, which is a single value that represent or that tend to speak for every other value. We have the mode, the media, and the mean. Well, of course, the mean is normally taken to be the best of these three measures of a central tendency, because it involves all the population and it has cumulatively the same value below and above it. So we can say that one is the representative figure for all of them. But each of them have their own attributes. We have only taken that one because it seems to be the one that can speak for everything. And that's why average has always been a very useful statistics in representing population. But we know that that single value does not speak for everybody. Each of them have their own identity. Now, if we are talking about market value, our market value is that average among a given population, which assume that a man of average intelligence that has knowledge of what is happening in the market and all the other conditions of market price. That want to deal with a section or a sector or the 5-bedroom within Abule Oja. Then the definition of or the population has changed. Then the best price also has changed. Okay, so the market value, that's why it has varieties. So we have variety of market value. And this is why I think Mr. Kwak, our first speaker, is talking about that we need to sit down with our main client, the banks, the insurance, EFCC, and let them know our own what we mean by market value and some other terms we use in our profession, which may also have some other ordinary meaning, which does not really agree with the way we use it in valuation. So that one is very, very fundamental, because auction sale market or auction sale does not fulfill the condition of market value the way we define it in IVS or in our green book. And because of that, what represents fair market value under auction sale will not be the same thing as under mortgage, will not be the same thing as under rating. They need to understand that one. Now, as for training and what happened in practice, where we know that what we do in class is to provide the basic principles. And we all know that after we have graduated, the issues we come across, we have not even mentioned them or heard about them. Every valuation has its own approach, depending on the circumstances, on the purpose, on the client needs, on the law that may be regulating that aspect. So many things are put together in each individual valuation there can be no hard and fast rule as to how to do one particular valuation. We have different approach for different valuation. Even within auction sale, depending on the circumstances, depending on the nature of the property, there will be different approach. That's why here we cannot lay down hard rules as to what to do. And this is why ethical practice becomes very important when it comes to valuation like auction and rating and mortgage. It's one thing to have the principle. It's another thing to analyze the market, get the right data, give the analysis the right interpretation in terms of value. So even though we get it right in the classroom, the application is very, very important. And what we have discovered is that there's a big gap between classroom teaching and what you see in practice. I've had occasion to ask my students to bring in valuation reports, and we have done content analysis, and we discovered that what people do in practice, there's a big gap between what we teach and what is in practice. I think what I want to conclude in this aspect is to remind our people in practice that primarily we are market analysts. Our valuation comes from thorough analysis of the market, understanding the market. When we do valuation, we are putting ourselves in the position of buyer and sellers. We are thinking their thoughts. We are reflecting on their perception. So we need to understand them. And the way they think. And the way they make their buy or sell decision. And of course, we need to understand more tasks. So many, I know we have got sufficient training as valuers who have passed through University of Polytechnic, but we are not really applying particularly statistics in our market analysis. One thing we find that is so lacking in valuation is that there are no, which is evident by very meager use of statistics in our valuation. It shows the extent to which we actually do analysis of the markets. And tell me market analysis without the use of statistics.
Thank you, sir. Prof, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Look, Prof has thrown more light on things that we need to look at. The network.
Frequency table, you won't find all of
Hello. Hello, sir. Let's not interject, sir, because of time. You've raised a lot of issues. You've raised a lot of issues about getting our brief right, using the statistical analysis to get the likely prediction about the value. You've talked about the methodology that we cannot restrict ourselves about to methodology. So thank you very much. I'm still coming back to you, but I want to rush you talk to two auctioneers that are valuers.
All right.
Now, ESB, Shola, Abeji, and Wumi Odushola, are you there? And I want to throw to two of you. You've been involved in lot of auctioneering works. But I think one of the basic problems about valuation for auction is this. I think we jump for valuation. I think the starting point is auditing those assets before coming for valuation. Shola, from practical experience, you could observe, tell me your experiences about people rushing to do valuation for auction without the full audit of what they need to do. You see people doing valuation for EFCC without even having access to the title documents. The reversionary interest that is supposed to value. Shola and Wumi, I want to see your lifetime experience. Share your experiences along that line, please, with us. Shola?
Good afternoon once again. Every panelist on board, permit me to rely on already established protocols. Well, I would like to share my own experience with respect to EFCC auctions that we have carried out. And sincerely speaking, we can do much better as agents of yours and valuers. And of course, as auctioneers also. Many times, I'll recall the EFCC experience when auctioneers, were commissioned to handle the sale of EFCC forfeited assets, which were mainly vehicles at the time. And in another instance, we had buildings, not this recent one, but buildings were also involved at another time. What we noticed largely was the fact that the EFCC had already commissioned our colleagues from the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing and told them to carry out valuation of these assets. And these assets were valued. After they were valued, of course, because of bureaucracy, it probably took some time, maybe a few more years, for the assets to eventually be brought out for the purpose of auction sales. Of course, like our earlier speakers have spoken, the disparity in terms of time and all that will have affected values between the time it was valued and the time we are doing the auction. But the interesting thing is this. You will expect that if a property was valued, like say 10 years ago, and EFCC is still selling at the same value 10 years after, that property should easily be acceptable to the market, because it's expected that within 10 years, there should have been property appreciation. But we found instances where even 10 years after, even relying on an evaluation report of 10 years, those properties, those values were still too high. Something obviously was wrong. On the part of our colleagues, when we receive briefs, because many of us are not thorough to do our due diligence, issues that border on what kind of title does this property have? Is it encumbered? What is the unexpired interest in this property? And every other thing that could probably make for a defect in the interest. Those questions are not asked. And we just rely on the fact that we are selling as is. That again poses some type of problem when it comes to auction of real estate assets. Hello, am I still on?
Yeah, Shola, we're with you.
Yes. It poses quite a challenge when it comes to real estate assets, because when valuers, our colleagues who have valued these assets, did they take into consideration these issues? Did they take into consideration the risk elements of these properties that they are valuing? Because like has been noted, properties will always be identified within a specific market, and within a specific group of people, persons, knowledgeable or not knowledgeable. And so the question is, if you look at the reports of our colleagues from Federal Ministry of Works and Housing and the values returned and eventual results at the auctions, sometimes you cringe and wonder how these figures were arrived at. And so I would like to say here that a lot needs to be done with respect to sensitizing on ourselves, with respect to when you know that these properties will actually end up being sold through auction sales. Extra caution must be taken cognizance of the market, the players in the market, and the general circumstances of that particular valuation, so that by the time the auctioneer goes to the field, he can go relying on a report that is market friendly. He can go relying on figures that can actually help that auction to be successful. We have had instances of aborted auction sales on account of values that were really out of market range and completely unrealistic. And sad to note that some of these figures were figures churned by our colleagues. The argument that the valuation was done 10 years ago and all that, it still begs the question. If it was done 10 years ago, so it means that whoever is buying is probably buying with another advantage, because the increase in property values have not been taken account of if you are relying on that same report of over 10 years ago. And these issues have continued to cause issues for us. Again, the legislation that governs the sale of forfeited assets in Nigeria today is the Poker Act, Public Proceeds of Crime Act 2022. What it means is that for any valuer who is valuing for the purpose of determining prices for forfeited assets, you must be conversant with the Poker Act. And that act states clearly that the value you must return must be in line with market value. And that is the base upon which EFCC prices or the auctions that we did appear to be, if I use the word on layman's term, on the high side for most prospective bidders. So there's also a need for us to engage more with these authorities, also even get to the point of interrogating the Poker Act. Because I recall that we spoke with representatives of EFCC and they said, this is a matter of law. Nothing can happen until the law is changed. And so the auctioneer is squeezed to rely on reports that first may be a bit questionable, then secondly, by the legislation that says it must be market value. And to round up,
say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Shola, sorry because of time constraint, we still have to, probably we may continue this discussion when we get to conference next week. Because the opportunities that are therein for sub-valuers in valuation for foreclosed and forfeited assets are enormous. Yes. But before going further, I want to bring it Wumi Odishola, but I want to say something. Our colleagues on the back end, Federal Ministry of Works, NDIC, and the DFI, we are not criticizing you based on this training, this webinar. But what we are trying to do is this. We need to come to sync about our approaches and our methodologies so that the profession we be a front burner when it comes to foreclosure, forfeiting of assets in Nigeria. We are not saying that we are not doing well, but you can do better if you understand the modern trends and the modern ways of doing this thing. Now back to Mr. Wumi Odishola. Wumi Odishola, are you there? So just to protect our members in DFI institutions and the one in public sector, please. We are not saying that you are not good.
No, certainly. No, we are not saying that.
So just try to understand the position. Mr. Wumi Odishola, where are you? There are more things, T's to cross and I's to dot as per valuation. Mr. Wumi Odishola, are you there, please? Wumi Odishola? Well, if he's not there, let me throw this question back to Prof. Shola and Mapuobi. We've discussed about forfeited assets. We've discussed about varied markets. But let me share an experience. Prof. Shola, as I told the line we are set with me, if you look at the majority of the valuation for forfeited asset or foreclosure, they adopted DRC. If you look at some of the, although some of those reports only carry pictures and value, but the one that they put some methodology, they use DRC. DRC, as we're taught in school for specialized assets, they have no record of transaction passing oftentimes. what are the best approach towards DRC along this line? Then those are even adopted comparison method. They base it on value in use, not in value in exchange. We disrupted the market. I want Prof to start the concept of value in use and value in exchange evaluation for forfeited assets and the ESG metrics for valuation of assets for foreclosure. In terms of ESG, I'm talking about of environment, society, and corporate governance issues that impacted valuation. You've talked that the market differs and the culture in the market differs and the utilities in the market differs. But somebody that is doing valuation that will not recognize this thing, how do you explain further to him so that the person can know the next line of action when they are privileged to do this valuation? Prof, can I start with you, sir? Because you are the one teaching every one of us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, of course, making a distinction between value in use and value in exchange. Well, value in use, or let me start with value in exchange, which is another name for the market value, is a value, just as I've defined it a short while ago, that the market, the representation will act knowledgeably, who knows everything about the market, everything about the object of valuation, that or what to buy or what to sell, how much is going to place on the property at a given time. That's the market value for you. Value in use is a value to an individual or either an individual entity, which could be a person or a company or a government department, you know, based on their peculiar characteristics, in which case when you are valuing value in use, you are bringing the variable you are substituting to your model as pertain to that entity, you know, that economic entity, and you are deriving the value for that particular entity. Now, when you are doing auction value, you are not valuing for a particular individual, as if you have somebody in mind who is coming to buy it. You are valuing, well, it is an open market, even though it's short a little bit of what we would describe as the normal open market, because it's a little bit restricted, but it has some, you know, coloration of open market in the sense that the thing is open. Anybody can come. If you register, you can participate in the bidding. To that extent, it's open as value in use, which has a particular economic entity in mind, you know, in arriving at that value. So it doesn't come into auction sale at all. So the other aspect of the question you asked, can I remember it again? Can you remind me?
ESG model. And it's so funny, we don't have an ESG matrix that we are using in Nigeria. We're expecting on you people in academics. Because valuation now must look at the environment, the society, and corporate governance. And those are critical issues when we are doing auctions. Yeah. How would the society repel or accept what you want to sell, and at what price will they accept it? The environment, then the culture, the corporate governance towards that asset. But we don't have a model along this line in Nigeria. To the best of my knowledge, let me not say to my best of knowledge, from academics that will help us to fine-tune our valuation along this line. Prof, are you back, sir? Prof, oh well, there could be network problem with Prof. Mbaru, Obi.
Well, of course, myself too, I don't have any knowledge of it. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because basically all financial institutions, they look at ESG now when it comes to valuation. Prof, are you there, sir?
Yes, so can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm with you, sir. We can hear you.
So I was saying that I don't really have any knowledge of one But let me just drop this one as a follow-up to a number of things that have been said, that we will be saving our
The network, we are not hearing Prof. The network. Shola, can you step in, or in Baru, pending the time we get Prof back?
Basically, let me just have, I need to add something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Obi. Yeah, okay.
Because the point of contention remains the issue of valuation and reporting accurate or near accurate market values for these assets.
Yeah.
And the EFCs, the banks, the ICPC are under fiduciary, they have fiduciary care to ensure that they deliver within certain bonds, and there's a measure of transparency. But one thing we should never lose sight of is, as consultants who are brought in to advise on the values of this property, we must always let them appreciate that market value is not, the market itself, that these assets are traded within a market. Because every asset has its own market. The market is not monolithic. It's not a single market where everybody just comes in and not like you go to the market, everybody is free to buy. It's not everybody that operates within this market. Certain markets, every market has its own characteristics. Like I'll just do by way of example of a recent sale by EFCC that failed, which they eventually sold, which I think what you're aware of, talking about the sale of Bella Vista, one of the blocks of Bella Vista. That particular property was valued at over 11 billion for some few years ago, or about, I don't know the exact time frame, but it was valued for about 11 billion. Eventually, EFCC put for sale early this year through auction by bidding. They received bids. A frivolous bid of 13.7 billion came in. Another bid was by Nigerian Army. Nigerian Army bidded about 2.something billion. Lagos State bid about 4.something billion. Eventually, the auction didn't succeed in that first round because the reserve price was about 11 billion. But I came to know about the transaction because the guys that packaged the frivolous bid, so to speak, brought it to me, and I said, listen, you guys did not do your market analysis well. Now, even at the 11 billion naira valuation, that property was grossly overvalued based on market realities. And it turned out to be so. So as valuers, we must always contextualize the value when we're talking about sell through auction, especially for forfeited assets or foreclosed assets. For foreclosed assets, it is liquidation. We are trying to liquidate those assets. It's not the normal market we are talking about. Market value is not just one thing. You must be contextualized. What market are you speaking about? It's not every market that everybody operates in. It's not everybody that can operate in every market. Some high-end markets, not everybody can operate in it. Yes, it's a market value. If you're asked to report market value in Banana Island, it's a high-end market. Is it for everybody? It's not for everybody. You must understand the dynamics of the Banana Island market. Again, these are some of the key issues. I only have an instance. There's like the example that I cited, that's speaking about some vessels that EFCC want to sell. It's still hanging on their neck because our colleagues who value these vessels did not do a thorough job. I must confess, you value a vessel, you do not have the access to the Q88.
The Q88?
You cannot tell me you effectively value the vessel without having access to its Q88. It's not possible. And then again, most of these vessels were like they've been anchored, either were betting at or anchored at sea for some couple of years. Some are out of class. Some have been long due for dry docking without beating. And you just through a market. and you just go to probably vessel online or do a comparative analysis and come up with a value because of the tonnage or because of the year of build. It doesn't work that way. We must put certain fundamentals and right. So it's important. We must be able to understand the market in which these assets are being traded or exchanged. We talked about value in exchange and then value in use. IVA speaks about value in exchange. And like Prof said, value in use is entity specific. It's not market value per se. So, but when it comes to value forfeited assets or assets being foreclosed, it is market value in liquidation. Let's note that word, in liquidation, or liquidation value as IVS talks about. And in reality, you must equally ask who wants to sell. How do you want to liquidate? Is it orderly liquidation or is it a forced sale liquidation?
Yeah.
If you don't clarify those things, you cannot come up with any meaningful value that can stand the test of time when it's placed for auction. If it's by auction, then auction is supposed to attract as many people as possible. But at the end of the day, you have a restricted asset market, and the asset is for closed assets and forfeited assets. There is a stigma attached to this asset. I've had cause to explain this to AMCOM. AMCOM was making that mistake about market value and market price. I told them the market value is to benchmark and help you guide at whatever price you realize eventually. You are flooding the market with over 200 assets at the same time, and you expect the market not to react. It's not possible. And you keep a threshold. If you are a defaulting creditor, you cannot buy again. Who will buy them? Who are those that will buy the assets? So at the end of the day, we must always have at the back of our mind that most people who are active in this market are the resellers. If you, as a valuer, have that in mind, that listen, you are valued from the point of view of the predominant market participants, who are the resellers. And what are the resellers' pricing metrics? Very simple. It is in fact, valuation for auctioning is one of the easiest ones you can do if you get it right. What are the metrics? Very simple. If you have access to used market prices, that is the starting point. But the value doesn't end there. The predominant people in the market are the resellers. They are conscious of what? Cost of removal. They are conscious of cost of storage. They are conscious of cost of making good. They are conscious of the margin that will make eventually when they sell. And you must net off these things from whatever price you get from the used market. It is very, very important. And Toko equally made mention about DRC as a evaluation methodology. You know, there's really nothing wrong with DRC if well applied. But unfortunately, most of us think about DRC in terms of just straight line depreciation. That is where the problem is. Because every valuation invariably involves some measure of comparison.
Yeah.
So the issue is this: if you have cost to deploy DRC, you must know that depreciation is loss of value from all known sources. It's not just wear and tear. It's not just economic obsolescence. It's not just technical obsolescence. Within the Nigerian market, there's what we call market resistance. There's market resistance. I'll give you an instance. If you have cost to sell property within Banana Island, there's a massive market resistance because most times who sell there, they see that you are, those who operate in that market believe that, listen, you are choked. So they are willing to give you a massive discount. There's a massive market resistance in that market. And then you must equally understand who are the major market participants. Every market is peopled by three different types of participants. One, the strategic investors, two, financial investors, and a mix of those two. As valuers, you must understand who are these people that will variably price these assets. Are they the strategic investors? Strategic investors don't think about financial returns per se. It's all about, I have a property. It could be for exposure. It could be for a means of storing wealth. I must tell you people openly, and I keep saying it at any forum I find myself, that when we look at the Banana Island, because I like using Banana Island as the point of reference.
Obi, hello, hello. Village people have captured you. Now, why expecting Obi to come back? Hello, can I have participants that wants to make contribution? Dr. Agbato before Shola, Dr. Agbato, Samson. Can you make your contribution, please? Obi, just hold on. I want to entertain Dr. Agbato here. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Let's enjoy your contribution. Yeah.
No, good afternoon, noble colleagues. And I want to thank ESVOB for that wonderful presentation, sir. And Professor, I appreciate those comments. But I just want to make this input to assist valuers. And my input is the fact that for forfeited assets, we as valuers, we need to come to the point of convergence to ask ourselves, what specifically is the basis of that valuation? If we agree together that the basis of that valuation is this, which to me must be in line with the standard, and IVS 400 recommend liquidated valuation. Value. You talk about liquidation value. So if we know that the market value, which you have mentioned, is a road towards attaining liquidation value, then we will know that our bus stop is not market value. Precisely. We are still moving further. Because in market valuation, you are talking about a willing buyer, a willing seller at arm's length transactions, where both parties, they are knowledgeable. But within the context of forfeited assets, of course, the person that is selling doesn't have that latitude of time. So there must be consideration for whoever is buying to be able to buy lower than what.
Where is doctor? He has raised a valid point.
But just to help out, am I there?
Yeah, you are there, Obi. Yeah.
Just to continue from where he stopped.
Yeah.
Most times we're asked to report market value. Yes, the Poker Act talks about market value. Yes, but we must contextualize the market value.
Yes.
If you are going to auction,
Dr. Agbato, you are back. Samson, you are back. Hello, Samson. Are you back? Okay, Obi.
So if you are talking, yes, you can still talk about market value, market value in liquidation. Market value in liquidation. That is what IVS envisions by liquidation value. So even if you are asked to report market value in line with the act, you can still contextualize it to market value in liquidation.
You are saying
but it will be lower than market value. That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
It must be, surely. It must be.
It will be lower than, because you want to attract buyers. They are not willing to buy. You want to attract, and there must be incentive for them to be able to buy.
I agree with Agbato, and two of you are saying the same thing.
The value lies between orderly liquidation value and forced sale value. If we always have that at the back of our mind, the market value that Poker Act requires in the context of Nigerian forfeited assets lies between orderly liquidation value and forced sale value. It frees us from that problem because we are reporting market value in liquidation.
Now we want to round up. Can I have any other person that wants to participate?
Can I contribute to that?
Yeah.
Can I contribute to that?
Okay, who is talking? Oh, Prof. I'm lawyer. Yes, sir.
All right.
It's getting better.
Thank you very much. I've always told my students, and where I have the opportunity, particularly when it comes to the issue of for sale or auction, because the people understand market value, I always tell my students, provide market value. States the difference between market value and for sale value, and let the mortgagee themselves decide what they think should be the for sale value based on their own consideration of the risk factor, including the mortgagor and the particular property that is in question. They have a way of assessing their risk factor. The difference between market value and for sale value is the risk factor. We are not their risk officer. Let them do their risk problem and make allowance and decide their own for sale value. The same thing with our client like EFCC. This is the market value, but auction value, it should be lower for this reason and for this reason and for this reason and for this reason. We can give them our advice, or they can make up their mind, or what should be the deviation from the actual market value with all the conditions attached to it. I think that will make us save a lot of problem, because there's a way the mortgagee want to put blame on us, which is not our own. There's a way the EFCs want to blame on us, which is not our own. We know what is market value by definition, but what they are looking for is not what you know as market value, it's what we call auction value, which is always lower for the many reasons that have been adduced today. Now give them market value, give them the reason why auction value cannot be as high as market value, and let them make up their mind, or they cannot ask us to advise them on auction value. That might save us some problem.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Let me just add-
Alaji, you want to talk?
Yes,
You are still going to round up. Alaji Adediro.
Yes,
Adetunji,
thank you,
Alaji.
thank you very much, and
Yes.
permit me to continue to stay on the existing protocol.
Yeah.
I want to thank the first speaker. He has actually made our day. But the most important thing we all need to recognize is that we will not have a profession if we fail to look at the entry points as to people who are coming in to become the associates. Because you discover that most of the valuation job that they got from AMCON, where most of these people are not with a lot of years of experience. So as long as we are saying, let everybody comes in, the more the merrier, we will have a problem. So we have to go back to the 60s. So we have to look at that. It's very important, because if you don't do that, I tell you, I have an experience with somebody who valued for a client who needed to use the valuation for registrations at IATA. He did the valuation, he did 2 valuations within 3 days with different values. And the valuation is just 3 pages. So I called him in Ibadan and I said, what is wrong? What is going on here? He said, who are you? I said, I'm an estate surveyor. My name is so. And so what? I said, you give 2 value within 2 days. What is going on here? So you see, this is a problem that requires a lot of serious effort on the part of the people who are there now. Otherwise, we won't have a profession in the next 15, 20 years. Thank you very much for this.
Thanks, Alaji.
Presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
And
Rocco.
then, Obialuju, I will get in touch with you.
Obi,
No problem, sir. No
Obi,
problem,
are you
sir.
coming to Loring? Now, let me ask, is Rocco wants to make a comment. Rocco Abraham, has he raptured? Obi, closing thoughts.
Okay, to help both the likes of the EFCC, the valuers, and all of us in the mix, I would suggest that organizations like EFCC should have what is called a reserve price fixing committee. After evaluation has been done and they're ready to go for auction, they should provide for a reserve price fixing committee. What this committee will do is to look at how these values came about. Look at when this valuation was done. Look at present circumstances. If need be, call for a revaluation. If the values are still within the ambit of reasonable timing, then they can adopt the value opinion of valuers. But the essence of the committee is to analyze the existing framework preceding the sale. If they can work within the ambit of a reserve price fixing committee, and then we should have at the back of our mind that reserve prices should always be between orderly liquidation price and orderly liquidation value and for sale value. So if we can have that at the back of our mind, then our job is a lot easier. Value for auction is one of the easiest valuations you can do, because
Obi. Obi, now let me take you up on that. You know the funniest thing that we need to be very, very sincere with ourselves.
Yeah.
And about the EFCC auction, the first thing we need to agree on is this. We are quick to accept brief. the DFI issue, you called me. Two of us were involved. I think one of the things we are missing, who is a consultant? Before ESCC calling for an auction, valuers in advisory capacity must have audited the processes for them. Look at the case in question, the one we are mentioning in Banana Island. And a consultant will have informed ESCC, you have a judgment to sell, forfeiture judgment. That consultant will have picked the original title documents to know the reserve price, to know the reversionary interest, rather.
Yes.
The reversionary interest. People jump for that valuation without knowing the reversionary interest that they are valuing.
On the property.
Now, look at the vessels. That's what a consultant will have done for us. Look at the vessels. Scrap vessels, no Q88, no MAO. That consultant will have been a valuer that will have streamlined what they need to do, how they need to go about it, the methodology to adopt. We will now throw it to valuers. It makes our job acceptable, clinical, and more professional. But the rat race for money. Now, there is a wrong premise that we believe the higher the value, the higher our fee. And the way this profession is going, there will be a lot of litigation against us with time. And one of the reasons why they are not pricing us well in our fee is that the cases of what we're doing. What is the starting point? Shola, you've been in board. You are in council. Who is a valuer? And back to what Alaji said. Is a valuer the person that passed the RSV exam and has not done valuation for 10 years, but was privileged to get a valuation instruction? I want us to look at, because one has been privileged to review some of those valuation reports at one time or the other for people in public sector. You win for our profession. Valuation is an endangered aspect of our profession that we're not careful. As of today, we don't have up to 3,000 valuers that are registered, that have paid their renewal fee, license, and the board, registration board. Take me up on that. And that shows that even among the 3,000, how many of us are? So we call ourselves valuers, people that are not practicing valuation day to day, jumping to do valuation work and sending wrong signal for the market will put us in deep shit. And we must come together to share knowledge, share successes, share failures to drive our position. Jola, parting word and let's close.
Yeah, a quick one.
You used to be a secretary of the Niesv. You were in board. Who is a valuer? Because you're giving license to petroleum people. Yeah. They are practicing the science or the art of valuation and creating multiple problems. And that's why I was telling Prof that for every area boy, there's an area father. Is registration board the area father, or the universities that are training us the area father? So for area boy, there must be area father.
Yes,
and we know Shola to a parting word and let's close. We don't overshoot our time.
Examine the
1 minute.
interest in the property.
Shola, we are not hearing you. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Shola.
Okay. In every profession, there are those who are practicing and those who are not practicing.
Yeah.
That is the reality. Lawyers, doctors, everywhere. But our peculiarity is the fact that I'll start by saying that at the membership interview of the board, I can tell you that less than 3% writes on valuation.
You see the problem. There we are.
Charge, management, compensation, that's the bulk of what they write on. And so that tells you already that if the core of our profession is valuation, and more than 95% of our members are writing on other allied areas, so to speak, then there's a problem somewhere. Again, the truth is, if you look at the way our stamps and seals are being issued, we cannot overrule the issue of specialization. It is very, very key. And so where specialization...
No. I just want to book.
Samson, mute your phone. Mute yourself. Samson Mosu, Samuel Mosu, please. Shall I continue? Shall I unmute yourself? Shall I unmute yourself? Shall I unmute yourself?
Okay, fine. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I said so. The issue of specialization, you see where a valuer who has never done any valuation before, all of a sudden by connection gets valuation of NNPC assets. He just jumps to the field and begins to use native intelligence, if I use that word respectfully, and come out with figures. These people as valuers must be looked at. Specialization is very key. I believe strongly that not everybody should be given stamp and seal, apart from those who are actually going to practice valuation. There can be another form of arrangement for those who are not doing valuation. But if you are going to have the stamp and seal that enables you to stamp and seal a valuation report, then there should be special scrutiny, because this is giving us a very bad name, and we are seeing all manner of embarrassing figures, here and there. So my take is that a valuer who is what is sold is one who is practiced and who is doing continuous training, having registered with registration board and gone through all required training to attain that thing. I also add, I believe we should declare a state of emergency evaluation practice going forward. People coming to the board will only write on valuation at least for 2 or 3 years. Let's go back to the drawing board. If that is done, maybe we'll have a reset with respect to valuation at least for 3 years. Let everybody write only on valuation, and from there we begin to get it right. Thank you.
You are a member of the council. Please, we'll take you on that. Please, raise it up at the council meeting. Wumi Odishola.
Yes.
Wumi Odishola. Yeah. Parting word. Your parting word. Mr. Wumi Odishola. Village people or what? Okay, I can't hear you. Prof, is Prof there? Let Prof give us the parting word and let's close. It's been a great day today. We've judged, we've agreed, we've disagreed, we've learned. I would like to thank Maprobi. Okay, it's always good talking to you anytime. We debate issues. Shola, it's great talking to you. Prof, is Prof still there? If Prof is not, is Prof still there? You could see analog and digital, the way it's affecting us. Wumi Odishola?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, can
Are you with
now?
me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. A lot has been said, and I want to appreciate Mr. Nkwaru. He has really dealt in depth into the topic of the day. But from the practical sense of it, what Mr. Shola Abeji just said, well, I will not support that, because how many valuations are coming to the fore in the first place? And you are trying to separate the shafts now. You are trying to create a dividing rule. Let's create a platform whereby others can train under us to get more experience. And that is the only way we can get a very robust output. And coming to the issue of auctions and getting the real value for the foreclosed and forfeited assets, I would draw an analogy here. A vessel is put up for valuation. A vessel that has been on the water for almost 10 years. And a valuer went into the place to value the vessel, only to be valuing it as an ongoing vessel, something that is in the scrap world already. So making mistake does not exonerate even the big firms here. Let us collaborate with one another and get the best out of this system. We can, those of us that have the experience, we can bring others under us or chip in a lot of words to guide those ones coming behind us. We have, in our own office, we have created a template, even for valuation of forfeited items. Such platforms, such things can be explored to get realistic figures. And I want to encourage everybody participating in the auction world to please diversify. Try to look at those things that will work for you to get good values for yourself. Thank you very much. And I think we've had a very useful
Thank you, everybody. Let me thank Niesv for giving us this platform, the president, the first VP, Borakule Alonge, Thanks, and everybody that participated. Let me tell you this thing, the market is waiting for us. Let's try to do one thing or the other so that we can make the profession better. And don't forget what Shola said. Let's declare a state of emergency on valuation practice. We need to do it better. We need to get it right. And don't be offended if you have made a mistake. We are here to learn. We are here to help each other. And sky is the limit for every one of us. I want to say on this note, bye-bye to every one of us. Thank you. Obi, thumb up. Shola, Ogawumi. Thank you.
Yeah.
PDF. We'll send it here. So normally say to bó bá ṣe pé lẹ́nu ìgbà ló lè gbé tókè báyìí fún filẹ̀ kó má fi back sí mọ́.
You are still online.
Wọ́n ju gbogbo ìpín lọ mọ́.